In July, Guyana was removed from the United States Tier 2 watch list to the Tier 2. Tier 2 is characterized by countries whose governments do not fully comply with the Trafficking Victims Protection Act's minimum standards, but are making significant efforts to bring themselves into compliance. This administration has reconvened the Ministerial Taskforce on Trafficking in Persons, which comprises governmental and non-governmental organizations to combat trafficking in persons. Gina recently spoke with Oliver Prophet, who is the acting coordinator of the Ministerial Task Force on Trafficking in Persons. He shared with us the task force plans, which largely include the implementation of activities outlined in the National Trafficking in Persons Action Plan. Prophet explains the composition and aim of the Ministerial Task Force on Trafficking in Persons.
The number of agencies on the task force is about 14. So we have, obviously, we're chaired by the Ministry of Public Security. The Ministry of Social Protection is also there. We have the Ministry of Natural Resources, and Guyana Geology and Mines Commission. We have the Guyana Police Force, both in terms of the Central Immigration and Passport Department Office, and also the Criminal Investigations Department. And we also have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. In terms of the non-governmental organizations, we have Food for the Poor, we have Help and Shelter, we have the Guyana Women Miners Organization, and we also have the Indigenous Peoples Commission. So all of these agencies work together. The main thing is to avoid duplications of effort, because each agency has their own mandate with regard to maybe one aspect of trafficking in persons that they would deal with. So we want to come together, meet, and ensure that all agencies are working together as one to fight trafficking in persons.
Public Security Minister Kemraj Ramjatan announced that the National Trafficking in Persons Action Plan has been completed. Prophet says that the task force has already begun implementing aspects of the 2-year action plan.
The action plan, we want to release action plan soon. This action plan is a 2-year action plan of 2016-2017. It has been released late in 2016, but we have already started some activities under the action plan. The action plan is divided into what we call the three, or what we want to call the 4 pillars of the fight against trafficking in persons. So you have prevention, you have protection, and you have prosecution, and you have partnership. Well, obviously the partnership is what the whole task force is about. In terms of prevention, we want to get, we try to meet monthly, and we try to get ideas as to how we can do things that would cut down the likelihood of trafficking in persons happening. We want to dissuade traffickers or would-be traffickers from actually thinking about perpetrating the act. We also want to basically empower persons, give them knowledge needed, persons in the public, the members of the public, to understand that, one, if they know more, obviously they'll be able to avoid it happening to themselves, because anybody can be a victim. There's no real discrimination here. Obviously, we know maybe some younger person might be more at risk than others, but at the same time, anybody could be, male or female, young or old, can be a victim. Anybody also can be a trafficker, so male or female. And so we want persons out there to understand this, to understand that if they build the knowledge base, it helps them to protect themselves, protect their family, but also protect them to be able to detect if it's happening to someone else. Not to get their hands dirty and get involved that way, but just by seeing the signs, they can make that call to the hotline number, which is 227-4083. That's a 24/7 hotline, and the call will be confidential. And it's manned by the Combating or Counter Trafficking in Persons Unit at the Ministry of Social Protection. So we want persons to understand that trafficking in persons does not affect the task force only, it affects everyone, and it can affect anyone. Therefore, we all should feel this responsibility, and by getting the knowledge, by us doing this awareness programs, it gives them the ability to actually be able to play a part. Additionally, we also we want to have basically awareness programs, and different kinds of awareness programs, schools awareness. We have done some market walkthroughs. We want to continue doing those kind of things. At exhibitions and these things, we want to have a presence. We had a presence at a Guy Expo recently. in terms of the market walkthrough, we would have done Starbuck Market, Border Market, Rosal Market. We want to do another market soon.
Prophet details the school awareness program that is expected to get underway soon.
But we have that in mind to start a program. We also wanted to involve, we had an idea coming up from Taskforce members of having flash mobs done, and that being a good way to basically to attract students' attention, and have them really focusing on the issue and actually gain from it while being entertained, or gain knowledge on the issue while being entertained as well. So we wanna, these things are not fully, I have not have data yet as to when we will start with it, but we want to get back into schools. But we have done a lot of work covering most of the country, not the whole country, in terms of having a team going out there and going into schools, just doing like interactive sessions with we had focused on mostly farms 3 and 4, but we might extend it a little more next time.
Apart from the various public awareness programs, the Ministerial Taskforce has already undertaken training activities. Training is another plan outlined in the National Trafficking in Persons Action Plan.
We also have done some training. When earlier this year, it was April, we had a visit from Interpol team, and in that visit, they did an assessment basically of our needs. What they were doing, they were in a number of countries, and they wanted to assess the needs in each country, and also to have a regional training. So when they get this assessment done, they can tailor the needs of the training, or tailor the training to meet the needs of each country. So since that assessment, we've had some trainings. We've had training in Trinidad. We've had one in Jamaica, and we would have had officers from the Immigration Department, from Guyana Police Force Intelligence Unit, and from the Criminal Investigation Department and the TIPS Unit going on trainings. And we would also have, in the future, we'd have from the prosecutorial section, and also from magistracy, all these we have coming up, and victim support and these things. So the idea now is for them to be able to come back with the knowledge that they gained from this training, and be able to retrain or to pass down to others, basically, to members on the task force and also to others that work in their fields. Also, we would like to do like a training of trainers shortly. I think that's basically marshaled by the Counter Trafficking in Persons Unit that I mentioned before from the Ministerial Social Protection, and that would enable us to have a wider base as well. Persons that can actually administer training or go and do awareness sessions elsewhere, instead of us having a few of us around the table trying to cover the whole country. We also had recently another training where the U.S. Embassy helped us to get facilitators from the IOM, International Organization for Migration. We also did a training through the Ministry of Social Protection regarding similar type of training with training of trainers.
The local training of trainers activity will be undertaken in October, as Prophet explains.
From basically a wide variety of our organizations. What we want, so it's not limited to any field or work or anything like that, but we probably would also draft in from the magistracy, from the judicial sector as well.
Training and public awareness programs are major activities outlined in the TIP Action Plan. Prophet shares other initiatives from the plan that the task force is working on.
We've been drafting a protocol. We did have a draft protocol from before, but obviously as the task force has been reconvened, had new members, new organizations coming in, and we wanted to do more work basically on the protocol. So that's something we want to finish soon. We also would like to have the act. We want to have the act condensed basically into a user-friendly document. A person can understand it better. Combating Trafficking in Persons Act 2005.
Prophet explains the purpose of drafting the protocol.
Basically, from detection, you detect a victim or detect a prospective victim. I want to know from there on how do we deal with this. If you're not a police agent, how do you go forward? So you want to make sure that we have the right channels, make sure the right communication is done, make sure we all work together as a team, and make sure that we all basically stay in line so we don't have any issues or any infighting or person not sure what to do, person not sure who to contact. in a certain situation.
This protocol on how to address potential trafficking in persons cases will eventually be shared with the public. Meanwhile, Prophet explains the challenges faced by the task force in conducting its duties.
The challenges faced, well, obviously, the getting from A to B basically is a challenge because, I mean, our land is vast. Covering all the regions is very difficult. And that's why, as we said, we wanted to do something like training our trainers so we have a bigger team, basically to share the information around. And also, these awareness sessions, we hoping that it will help persons actually, like we said before, realize the responsibility and actually help with getting information around. So, yeah, the dissemination of information may be one of the biggest challenges. Obviously, I mean, we're well supported by the government, but funding will always be an issue in terms of getting the information out. So we appreciate any kind of help that we can receive from an overseas organization that wants to pitch in and help us out with these things. And also the expertise. Expertise in, like you said, in administering these trainings and these things. So that's not a place where those who have the experience in the past and also international organizations can help out.
The bulk of the works outlined in the TIP action plan will continue in the new year following approval of the Task Force 2017 budget.
It will be the budgetary allocation basically for next year in terms of what we would have put aside, and to be ranging from, I would say around $20 million. At least that's our initial allocation, and we still also hope to have additional based on discussions with international organizations to see how much more help we can get. But from our allocation, that's what we would have proposed. We're likely to see basically more awareness sessions and hopefully getting the public that's more knowledgeable on the issue. That's one of our main things because, for instance, we do an awareness session. Obviously, we have booths. Sometimes we have a booth. A person comes up. We ask the person, what do you know about trafficking in persons? Or when you hear about trafficking in persons, what's the first thing that comes to mind? So some of the buzzwords that you might hear female, you hear young, you hear the perpetrator. The perpetrator will be male, and these types of things. So you want persons to understand that trafficking in persons could happen to a male too. It could affect a male. The victim could be a male. So we want to understand that the perpetrator can be female, and in many cases, very often it is a female. So we want to appreciate these things and appreciate that there are differences between prostitution and trafficking in persons, these types of things. And also, it doesn't only happen in the interior. It can happen right in Georgetown. It happens cross border. People have an idea of what it is, but they may not have a full understanding or a complete appreciation of the actual issue. And also that it could affect them and also that it could affect others. So the task force, one of our main things is to get that sorted out. Obviously, we also want to have increase the institutional capacity, have our experts being able or better able to, one, work together, and two, to carry out their own function, their own individual function in terms of, and we hope that all these things working together helps us to basically not make Guyana a country that is not, I want to say suitable, but not a place that a trafficker looks at and sees, I can go here, I can make my money here. We want it to just be a place that dissuades trafficking in person. Through our activities, through the way it is dealt with in the court and everything. We also have included in the action plan for a proposal to be formulated in terms of how we can get better in prosecuting the crime of trafficking in persons, how we could work better along with the judiciary. It has to make sure that we are on the same page in terms of how we feel it should be dealt with, because we don't want to have a discard where the judicial sector thinks it should be dealt with this way, thinks it should be dealt with this way. We want to come to we want to make sure we're on the same page, so whenever we have a case, we are in the same line of thought as to how it should be dealt with. From a case-to-case basis, it will always be different. So we can't compare this case to this case and say, well, how come this person and how come this person didn't? We just want to make sure that we understand the process. So when a sentence comes out or something of the sort, that we understand why it was done.
We all have some idea of what trafficking in persons involves. Prophet explains how a situation can become a case of trafficking in persons.
Trafficking in persons, basically, it involves an act, and it involves a means, and it involves a purpose. So when you have an investigator trying to put together his evidence, he has to make sure that he satisfies all three of those criteria. So in terms of the act has to do with, from the starting of the crime, is there a recruitment? Was there a recruitment done? Obviously, it might be a team, it might be somebody being the recruiter, somebody doing the actual approaching the person, or maybe it was an ad, and to get the person interested. It can be, the transportation is also part of the act. It can be a transfer from A to B, moving the person from A to B, hence the term trafficking. So that's basically the act. Now we have the second factor, which is the means. In terms of the means, how are you getting this person to acquiesce? Is it by means of force? Was there any force used to get a person from A to B? Or to recruit a person? Was there some sort of deceit used? Did you tell them that they would be coming to do this job, and when they got there was a different job? Did you tell them they were working these hours, when you got there was a different amount of hours? Did you tell them they would get this pay, when you get there is not the same pay? So either deceit, force, or some other way of getting that person to get their blackmail. And the purpose now has to be exploitation. So like you said, you ask other than prostitution. So it can be exploitation in regards to sexual exploitation, or it can be labor exploitation. So labor exploitation, it can just be a person is working there, not getting paid, or they're not getting paid, they're working long hours, they're working under terrible conditions, they don't have their freedom, their identification documents are being confiscated, these types of things. And these things could happen. Obviously, this is still trafficking in persons, even though they not necessarily have any sexual factor. Also, we need to understand as well is that as long as a person is below age of 18 years of age, the means portion becomes, it doesn't matter. All you need is the act and the purpose. It doesn't matter if the person was forced, or it doesn't matter, they can't give consent. Under 18 years of age, they can't give consent to being exploited. So as long as you can establish the act and the purpose for someone under 18 years of age, you can make a claim for trafficking in persons. If the person is an adult, they have to establish all three of those elements.
If you suspect someone may be a victim of trafficking, you can call the confidential 24/7 hotline number on 227-4083. Thank you for joining us on this GINA program.